Hello everybody, I am Shapples and welcome back to Let's Play Nox. So we've just after getting the halberd of horrendous, and we did have to fight him to the death, which, you know, was, well, I suppose that was bound to happen. You know, I did think that maybe Hecuba would step in again, but no. She didn't actually step in this time. We had to basically do the dirty work ourselves.
Welcome to Maximilians. Actually, business has fallen off quite a bit with Hecuba running loose. I'm moving out of here to set up shop for...
Yeah, usually we don't... In the past two campaigns, or I keep calling them campaigns because it's probably what I believe might be the best word to describe it. Basically, the first time you arrive in Galava is right now. So basically, before we saw the town bustling and everything was thriving in the town, and now that we're back later on in the game, it's sort of everybody's kind of gone quiet and business is down and everything. So you can see how Hecuba's reign of terror has kind of affected Galava. Was at the start it hadn't really affected because she wasn't really on her rampage yet, but now she is, and you can see how it's actually affected the town of Galava. So that's a nice little touch as well.
I thought I locked that.
I like that little touch. Now it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to go, whether it's going to be the ogres taking over the place again, as it was with the Conjurer, which is quite possible, or because as a warrior we had to go in and we had to fight our way through all the mages. As the Conjurer, when we arrived, the place was overtaken by the ogres.
Welcome to the Wizard's Keep. How can I help you?
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this time as the mage. Alright. Well, we might as well buy all these spell books. What's that? Imp Beast. I'm pretty sure I have something like that already. I'll buy a few of them. I'm going to be needing them. This is why I stocked up on all that gold in Dunmere. Wall. Erect a mystical wall before you, sections of which can be broken by force. The entire wall disappears when you perish. Shock. Amass a static from the very air and discharge it in a lashing jolt by touching the target of your choice. Reflective shield. Summon a magical shield which will briefly deflect all spells hurtled against it. You must remain still and face your threat. And then of course, fire again. Alright, we're getting places.
Welcome to the Shop of Bright Blades. How can I help you?
The staff amidst the shower enchantment recharges itself. I'll take that, because it actually genuinely recharges itself, so that's very handy indeed. Huh?
Kincaid's armor at your service.
Oh, it's rechargeable.
What can I do for you, Sir Wizard?
Bollocks. Well, some of them... Though aren't all of them rechargeable? Because I recharge these. Well, that's a bollocks. I misread that. That's my own fault. Oh well. Right, what have we got here? Fire protection. Yep, I'll take that. Generation. I've already got one. Haste. Haste I already have. Though the defense is slightly better, but I'm not going to worry about defense. Right, okay, we'll switch over this.
Kincaid's armor at your service. What can I do for you, Sir Wizard?
I'm regretting buying that fucking staff now, because it was a lot of money. But I'm not gonna worry about it. It is cool though, I have to admit, it looks cool. Looks better than the stick I was carrying around with me for the past god knows how long. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna accept it, I like it. It's stylish. I just spent 7,000 gold on style.
Huh?
Huh?
If the tower falls to Hecuba, Galava would...
Sounds like the place is under attack then. Which means that we're probably going to be dealing with ogres again. Or at least that's what is possible. I'm Not sure exactly how it's going to go, but we'll quickly find out. I'm just exploring the town first. What have we got here? I'm going to put that there because I'm going to use this to break things. Where is this bringing me? Oh, it just brings me back out here. Okay. And that's not running either. So yeah, all the stories kind of intertwine together in a sense, to a certain extent. Like your man's going to be still in here. And as the warrior, we get arrested at this point, so we actually use him to get out of here. So they do kind of intertwine, if you get what I mean. Which I like. I really like that idea, how all the stories just kind of intertwine with one another. I think it's quite good actually. It's very clever. Very clever storytelling, which is not often done in games these days. It's usually a very sort of, there's only one way the story can go, but here it's kind of got that like, you know, where each class has a different story, but all the stories kind of intertwine, and you can see how this specific town, how it actually worked from the very beginning, as opposed, like, the best way for me to describe this is, when we first came here to Galava, we got to see what happened before we arrived as the conjurer, or before we arrived as the warrior. We saw the events that took place before then, whilst before we were only going by what we were seeing as the warrior and conjurer, but we got to see what actually happened beforehand as the mage, and it was the same when it came to the village of Ix and Dunmere as the warrior. In Dunmere we got to see what happened before the fall of Horrendous, and the same with Ix, we got to see what happened before then. Like we haven't got to see Ix at all so far in this. So all the stories kind of intertwine, and it gives us this, it allows us to see back into all the different characters and all the different towns. It gives us a much better widespread idea of what has actually happened. Now, yeah, I saw something like that was going to happen, that's why I saved. So I really like that idea that you get a sort of look in, and you get to see exactly what has sort of occurred, I suppose you could say. Excuse me. You know, so that's why it's nice to also play as all the different characters, because you get a look in at all the villages, and you kind of you do get to. That's a crazy ass staff. Still don't like it though. Or the boots I just picked up. Fire protection. Well, it was kind of worth it, I suppose. Oh, it is rechargeable. You just have to recharge it at the stone. Ah, that's okay then. Right, okay. Then it was worth the money, even if it is weak as shit. But still, it'll do the job. And again, it's stylish. Right, let's go. What are we dealing with here? Hold on, it seems very peaceful.
Hurry! Master Horvath is waiting for you on the top floor of the tower. There's a teleport that will take you to him.
I don't like how peaceful things are. This is unnerving me. Very much so. Though I am going to explore if I can. I thought I was going to get to explore there for a second, but no. Oh well. Is he back in his body at last?
Lewis has finally lost his mind. They've given me his workshop since he's taken wandering the halls, making strange noises and catching insects with his tongue.
I love it. Ah, that's funny. I do like the way that they've got this kind of sense of humor as well.
Welcome to the Tower Gift Shop and Trinkets. Can I help you?
Not really. There's not a lot you can help me with. I'll sell that to you though. Drain mana from the nearest source. Right, we've already had that. Okay, let's... Is that where I have to go? Because I kind of... Well, I'm guessing that's where I have to go anyway. Off the bat, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it is. And I can't go anywhere else, so let's just go this way.
Thank the stars you made it, Mage. Hecuba's forces are everywhere. We must take the Heart of Nox away from here.
Oh. Well, that was relatively easy.
Step onto the teleporter. Quickly. It will take you to the Temple of Ix.
Well, now, I was not expecting this. I was expecting some kind of fucking...
Silly old man. You should have stayed in your nice cold jail cell back in Groktor. I'll have to pound a few ogre heads together for letting you escape.
Oh.
It's too late, Hecuba. My young mage is already teleporting away.
You cannot stop me, Horvath. I now have the power to destroy you, old man. Fine. Run away, little wizard. You're going somewhere far warmer than Ix. This teleporter now goes to the underworld.
It's never that simple, is it? This is new. This is very new. Okay. Well, I shouldn't have opened my mouth. I kind of said, you know, I did just say it can't be that easy. And yes, I'm correct. It's not going to be that easy, is it? Ow. I'm going to be using this. Ah, dear. It's not going to be that easy. Of course not. Well, I will say one thing. This is new. This staff is coming in quite handy for these little guys, because I don't have a lot of health, but by Jesus do they really pack a punch. So I'd rather keep my distance from them, I have to admit. I'm liking the rumble. It's quite a nice feature, because you know, we're in the underworld and everything, you know, we're underground and you hear this rumble. I'm liking it. I'm really liking it now, I have to admit. The question is, where do I go? Can I jump across there? I can. I just decided to save in case, though. So that could have ended quite disastrous. Could do with recharging this, actually. Yep. Yeah, recharge it up. There we go. This is what I mean by this is such a great game, because every time is different. It's very different. Each character you play as is completely different to the last. You know, you get such different scenarios each time. I really like it. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I wish more games did this. Did it just like Nox did. Because it's great. It's really good. I love this idea. I love how it's so different every time for each character. And I just wish that more games would take this approach. Because it works. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, and I love it. And I really do genuinely wish that more games would do this. Because it is. And it's not just done where the story is different. It also, like I said previously, it shows the, you know, it kind of shows the world and how it's been affected by Hecuba and everything. It's not just a case of the story is different. It when you play all three, it gives you a complete insight into the world of Nox and how each town has been affected by the events of the game, because with each you get to see each town in their glory before the events take place, and you get to kind of see how it has also affected them. And I think it's genuinely I've really enjoyed it, and I think that more games today could do with learning from this, because it is very clever storytelling. It's very clever in the sense of telling and showing and presenting a virtual world as well. And I think that, you know, developers could learn a lot from this, because I've said it before, that games they don't focus enough on story anymore, like this is. You know, I mean, like when we talk about something like Diablo was never meant to be a story kind of game. It was just meant to be action and killing lots and lots of things. So, you know, but games that, you know, you can still get a good story into a game, but Diablo, I'll always give a kind of a, you know, the story wasn't exactly anything fantastic, but, you know, it did the job. But where the game lacks in story, it more than makes up for in actual genuine content. So, you know, I'm not gonna fault that, but then you get games that they've got a poor story and they've got a poor amount of content as well. So what did they spend their time doing in development? That's kind of my idea. But going back to what I was saying, is that games, they don't have stories like they used to, and this is why I like going back to old games. In a sense, the ability of people being able to tell a story in games has been kind of lost over the years, and it hasn't been nearly up to scratch of that of older games. And this is primarily why I play a lot of old games. Like, even if I did have a computer that was able to manage all modern games, I would still I'd still play these old games as well. You know, like, when the time comes I do get a new computer, I'm not going to abandon playing old games. I'm going to, in fact, continue doing old games, and, you know, I'll probably do an evenly amount of old and new when it comes to the time that I have a new computer. But this is why I like playing old games, because it kind of shows what is lacking, what made games so good back in the day. God, I sound like a real old man now saying this, but these old games kind of demonstrate that gaming has gone skew-whiff over the years, and what made games really good back in the day has kind of been lost. And that's why I like to play these old games, because it brings, you know, it kind of reminds me, and, you know, it reminds me of what these games were like and what made them good in those days. And I think as someone that's looking to make a game and who is working on making his own game, I think that is an important thing for me as a developer to do, and that is to look back on what made my favourite games back in the day, and those that I missed back in the day, so good. And, like, you know, and not to make my game like a lot of the AAA crap these days. So it's good for someone that is that plans on making a game or is working on making a game, to go back to the roots of gaming and to see what really set off the gaming industry as a whole, and I just after getting fucking plastered. And I think that's very important, and it's one of the things that Malevolence, the Sword of Acronox's developer Alex Norton, has done. His game is based on those old games, and you can see that in the actual design of the game, and you can see that in his entire character as a developer. And it's what makes Malevolence such a good game, because his game has been influenced by the old games, not modern day games like a lot of indie developers have done today. Bastard! There's, you know, like, there is a lot of pretty average games out there in the indie side. There's some fantastic games and there's average games, and you know, sometimes some of these average games, they're average because they're kind of modern, but you know, like, they didn't look back on the old games, and they just went along and kind of stuck to what has been known as modern. But that's their prerogative, that's their own choice. But I will always believe that games were better back in the day. Not graphically, because that's technically impossible, but by actual gameplay, fun, and general storytelling, games were far better back in the 90s, and they've progressively got worse since, with a few exceptions, of course. Ember Demon, though diminutive in stature, give proper respect to these razor-clawed terrors. They hurl pure fire, and when near death will explode in a furious blaze, which we've quickly found. And I think that's why, you know, the whole storytelling aspect of it, and I think this is why a company like Telltale Games have done really, really well, because though their games are not necessarily, they're hard to really call them video games, they're more of an interactive movie. I haven't actually played any of them. I do plan on doing it when I get my computer, but I've you know, I know people who have played them and everything. But I think what advantage Telltale have, and what makes their games so successful, is the fact that they can tell a fucking story, and their stories are fucking good. And that's why they're so successful. And that's why, because we're in a gaming industry, the gaming industry is in a kind of era that storytelling has kind of become secondary, which in my opinion is very, very bad, because in any game you need to have a story to a certain extent, unless of course it's something like fucking Minecraft or something like that. Well, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But when you've got something that's supposed to have a story and have lore and things like that, you need a proper story there, and you need it to be good. And this is where Telltale come in, because they might lack full-on gameplay experience from the player, but what they don't have in that, they've far escalated and made up for in story and moral choices of the player. So there's not much control for you as the player in their games, but you choose how the world is shaped through decisions, and on top of that, the stories have always been apparently spectacular. So, you know, this is how Telltale have become so good, because they tell a damn good story. And the success of their games has kind of shown that. I mean, they've had Game of the Year for their Walking Dead Season 1, and I've heard that The Wolf Among Us is absolutely fantastic. I've heard that Season 2 of Walking Dead is fantastic, and I've heard that they are very, very, very highly competitors for another Game of the Year nomination. So that kind of just goes to show that a good story in a game can make a big difference, and it's something that I think that AAA developers especially need to remember. But also, I think it's something that indie developers need to also remember, because you know there's just so much. There's so much influence from AAA industry, and generally most indie developers sort of get inspired from AAA as opposed to, you know, old school. But that's kind of changing now, because the indie scene is booming so much. People are getting a little bit more inspired by the indie side of things now, than say a decade or two ago. You know, as opposed to say a decade ago, maybe not two. So now, you know, gaming is changing, and very slowly, much slower than I'd like it. The indie scene is bringing back the old side of gaming, which was more about, it was about fun, it was about a good story, and you know, there is a couple of good indie games out there that have really had a good story to them. Can't say that I've experienced it firsthand, because I haven't in these cases, but I have read reviews and people's, like, you know, not just critical reviews, like general people, the players' reviews on the likes of GOG and that. But Inquisitor is supposed to be a good example of a good game that kind of goes back to the standards of Baldur's Gate. You know, maybe not as highly as, because, like, you know, it is an indie game, not a AAA title, but it kind of gives that old Baldur's Gate kind of feel to it. Driftmoon is supposed to be pretty good as well. And at the end of the day, these games aren't excelling in graphics, but what they don't have in graphics, they're making up for in story, dialogue, and general storytelling. And that's what I like. And it's something that I think the AAA industry has forgotten, because a game can be fun without all of this fancy stuff, you know. Like, you don't need, you know, all these different tricks and all this sort of bullshit, you know. Like, it's cool when you get something like, how should I put it, let me see, something that had a cool feature and is pretty recent. I suppose you could say Bulletstorm's a good example of this, where, you know, you had all your skill shots and all that crap. Well, no, it wasn't crap. It was quite cool, actually. But, you know, like, you could stick as much of that into a game as you want, but it's not necessarily those things that create the game or make the game good. I mean, like, you know, they're going all out. AAA are going all out, where, you know, you have the character's hand, and, you know, you press a switch, the character's hand appears and pushes the switch and pushes the computer and types away on the keyboard and all this shit. You know, it's cool. It gives a bit more immersion, yes, but it doesn't. It's not those features that make a game fun. And, you know, I think that indie developers kind of worry about that kind of thing, and it sometimes backfires on them. They try to create too much of that same AAA immersion, but they don't need to. Games like Quake 1 were fantastic fun, but they had none of that. They had none of this, like, where you can see the player's hands or the player's feet and all this kind of thing. And to get that, it takes time to get that into a game, and I think that, you know, indie developers kind of think too much into this, and they forget this, and you know, it adds to immersion, to kind of, you know, it adds to it, but I don't think that it's necessary. It is not necessary to add all these little features in, because they will not. It's not really that makes the game out to be fun or not. And I think that instead of focusing on something like that, you should focus more on more fun aspects of the game. But like I said, you can have as many of those cool little aspects that give you more immersion into the game, because your character can put his hand up to this or puts his hand up to that or whatever. You could do that all day long, but it's not going to make the game any more fun, because it's not actually a feature that improves gameplay. And that's where AAA have gone kind of off the rail, because they kind of rely on that shit. You know, they kind of turn around and say, we have to do this now. And to get that to work right and test it and bug fix it and fucking everything else that can go wrong with it, that could take fucking weeks just to fucking fix if a problem came up with it. So that's a heap of weeks gone down the fucking drain for something that doesn't actually improve the game as a fucking game. So this is kind of where I'm getting at, where these old games were a shitload of fun, and they had none of that immersion bullshit that the AAA companies seem to think are 100% required when they're not. And yeah, that's kind of the point I'm trying to get across here. Is that all this fancy shit is not needed to make a fun experience. All you need is the basics. Like, to make a fun first-person shooter, all you need is a gun in front of you. You don't need to see the person's feet. They don't need to basically make them put their hand up to a switch and actually press it for immersion bullshit. You don't need any of that crap to make a game fun, because it's not that makes the game fun. It's the gameplay itself and the key features of gameplay. And that is something that has been highly forgotten over the years in the gaming industry, and it has been ruining it. And excuse me. And I am a strong believer that you don't need that kind of thing to make a game fun, because I mean, I have recently been playing a game which I honestly didn't think I would play, but I got it on a GOG sale. I think it was for St. Patrick's Day, where you paid a tenner, and it was kind of like a lucky dip. You know those lucky dip bags that you get as a kid. They've got all these sort of little things in them that were a complete waste of fucking money, but you did it anyway. It's kind of like that, and you pay for the bundle, and the website basically picked out your games at random, and you got it. And I said, what the fuck, you know, I'll go for it. I'll play along, and I got one of the games I got was called Aqua Kitty Milk Miner Defense. And it's a quirky little game. It's really weird, and it's something that I never saw myself playing. But I said, well, I have it now, I might as well give it a try. And I actually really enjoyed it. It is actually a really fun game. And the reason being is because it goes back to the old roots of gaming again. You know, to the days of Space Invaders and Project X and what other games could I compare it to that I'm trying to think of? You know, like Silkworm was another one that's very like, and things like that. It goes back to the old school shoot 'em ups, I suppose you could say, and it is a lot of fun. It is a really fun game. I'm actually going to do a let's play of it, but it's a really fun game, and I really enjoy it. And you know, I didn't think I'd enjoy it, but I do. And I think it's a hell of a lot of fun, and you know, it just goes to show. And there's nothing complicated about the game. It is just literally a basic shoot 'em up, like in the old days, like you'd find in the arcades that you used to basically throw your money at as a kid. They are just like that, but they work, you know, and they're really effective. And it's a modern game, but it gives you that brilliant sense of nostalgia from when you were a kid, chucking your 20p or your 50p into these arcade machines when you went on holiday to the seaside, and they had all these little arcade places, and it just gives you that nice sense of nostalgia back. And it's so much fun. And you know, it just goes to show that you you know, it's probably one of the, it's a game I've had a lot of fun with, and I've had more fun with it than I have with a lot of games over recent times. And it's just so basic. There's nothing complicated about it. It's simple. It's simple. You go around in a submarine and you blow shit up. That's it. That's the game. There's not much of a story to it or anything like that. It's just a fun, silly little game. And it's as basic as hell, and it was made by 2 guys. And it is really fun. So, yes, you don't need all this fancy bullshit that you get in games these days that the AAA industry are firing out to us. Oh look, your character goes and puts his hand up to this button to activate the switch. Oh look, your character can now basically pull a lever. See his hand do it? Isn't that brilliant? And, you know, all this bullshit. But it's not that, like, yeah, it's cool, but it's only cool for about the first 5 times you see it, and then it's just like, meh, okay. And it doesn't matter a shit anymore. You know, you know, it's the simplest of things that work. I mean, look at Minecraft. There was nothing fancy about it. It was basic. The graphics were shit in comparison to the actual, you know, modern day graphics. Even though Minecraft graphics has become a thing now. It's an actual graphics style, which it wasn't really up until then. Whereas now you have developers doing it on left, right, and fucking centre. But the idea I'm trying to get across is simplicity is a wonderful thing, and it is something that should never be underestimated. Because you can make your game as complex as you fucking want, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be any more fun. You know, it's generally the simplest of things are the things that generally lead to success. And not a truer word has ever been said. I mean, right now, I don't know about what it's like in shit, did I lose my... I think I lost my robe. Not sure though. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but here in Ireland there's these things that they call loom bands, and they're basically tiny little, they're small elastic bands. That's all they are, and everybody's after it because people have figured out, oh, but we can make all these cool things out of them now. Like they can make bracelets out of them, and they can make, you know, designs like flowers, and some people are even making dragon scale designs out of them and all this kind of thing. And all they are elastic bands, and they have become so popular. Kids are buying them left, right, and fucking centre, and it's crazy. But it's so simple, yet it's so popular. And as I said, I think that is a perfect example of simplicity is never ever to be underestimated, because 9 times out of 10 it's going to work over complexity and just general, you know, showboating bullshit. It's going to win over every time. And you know, that's the way I see it anyway, you know. Oh, this can't be good.
Hurry up, you fools! Faster! Onto the teleporter! I will no delay.
This is unexpected. Do I have to kill him?
What? So, this must be the meddling mortal Hecuba spoke of. Well, don't just stand there. Kill the mortal.
Great. Wonderful. I'm gonna run now. Well, this could have gone better. Alright, let's, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but still. But yeah, simplicity is generally a winner over complexity every day. I mean, like, you have all these toys and that for kids these days, and the thing is that, like, they cost so much money. Yet, what the fuck do they do? You know, this is kind of the approach and bollocks that I'm trying to get across here. It's the silly little things that generally win the crowds, and you know, that's why it was, like, you know, I'm not gonna give a heap of detail into my game, but when it comes to my game, I'm not doing anything that hasn't been done before. I'm just doing a style that I love as a player, and I just, you know, I just hope that other people like it as well, because, you know, I'm not trying to do anything different. I'm not trying to do, you know, something completely outrageous and complicated that is going to be way out of my depth. Like, as it is, I'm only learning as I go along. I've never studied anything like programming or anything like that before, so I'm literally learning as I go. And, you know, so, like, you know, my aim is just to make a detailed game with a decent story and nothing too complicated, just fun. That's my goal, but add in, you know, cool features as well, of course, but nothing too complicated, because complication can sometimes, as strange as it sounds, it can actually sometimes alienate people in a sense. It's a strange thing, it really is, but people are very easily offended and alienated by new things, and that's no joke, by the way. That's actually the damn truth. I can't even see if that damaged him. No, that's not damaging him at all. Right, okay, he's immune to fire. But, you know, I'm not trying to do anything that hasn't been done before or anything like that when it comes to my game, personally. I'm just trying to bring back a bit of old school, where I believe that any game, I want to kind of, I want to give it a good, you know, I want to make it so that there is a story to be told, and I want the world to have plenty of lore and background and things like that, just like what Nox has here, except in Nox it's done a little bit differently. But, you know, kind of old Elder Scrolls is another example of it, like Daggerfall, and that had tons and tons of lore through books that you found throughout the game that told you all about, you know, the history of Tamriel and things like that. That's kind of my idea, I suppose you could say. But I'm not going to sort of talk anymore about it now, because I've gone on enough about it. But that's kind of my idea. You know what I mean? Simplicity is definitely the way that it goes, and this is why, you know, I mean, like, these AAA companies is what I meant to say. They're focusing too much on the posh shit and the showboating and, oh, look what we can do and all this bullshit, that they've forgotten about the roots of games, which is simplicity, fun, and a good story. And that, I think, is a bit of a cardinal sin, to be honest. But that's the way it's gone. Shit. Bunch of guys up here. But I think I've probably made my point by now. I'm not going to.
Ah, good. Your arrival could not have been better timed to help turn the tide, lad. The Weirdling is the next vital component of the Staff of Oblivion. It can only be brought out on the Halberd of Horrendous, since its touch against all other metal ends in total destruction. Incorporated into the halberd, with the Heart of Nox at its base, it becomes a weapon of virtual invincibility, almost completing the Staff of Oblivion. So go into the Temple of Ix and bring back the Weirdling.
I sure will, but I want to see what was down the other way first, before I do that. Oh, bollocks. Oh, I can go back in, that's okay. Okay, that's fine. Well, yes, we'll do that now in a minute. Ah, there's nothing there. Danger, mineshaft closed. No shit, Sherlock! But yes, I think I've made my point pretty clear about gaming and my beliefs on how older games should be kind of looked upon when it comes to developers making their games these days. But anyway, I think this is a perfect place to finish for this episode, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, and have fun.